As I've watched episode 5 through 7 of Spirit Chronicles, I'm starting to see a pattern of this show. Basically, Kirito goes to village, meets a whole bunch of girls, leaves girls crying as he leaves the village, goes to another village, meets a bunch of girls, leaves a bunch of girls crying as he leaves the village. I'm seeing this pattern happening, but this is my thoughts on episode 5 through 7. So far, still a great series. I guess I'm at this point, honestly, being very truthful here. I am getting frustrated with this kind of cycle that I just joked about, where he just goes to a village, meets a whole bunch of girls, shows off to them, and then leaves village. And I think that's going to happen. Like, we just literally got to this new village, which is the village that he was trying to get to find out more about his parents. And I know that he's going to leave this village, and the two girls that he met there are going to be crying, and he's going to go off to another village. He doesn't really stay in one place for very long. Well, from the viewer standpoint, he doesn't stay in these villages for very long. It just seems like it just jumps forward. And that's kind of the unfortunate thing that's happening, is that it feels like a lot of this story is being told through time jumps. He goes to this demi-human village, and it just jumps forward an entire year, and then he leaves. And now he's going to go to this other village. It jumps forward 2 weeks, and he's been there for a while. It really does kind of upset me to a little bit, to an extent. But at the same time, I love the characters that it's introducing. I love the world that is expanding slowly and slowly. Obviously, the first one he goes to with episode 5, he does enter the demi-human village, where he ends up actually getting captured. He doesn't go into it. He gets captured, thrown in there. They're very apologetic to him because they realize that this demi-human that was with him, which was Latifa, wasn't a prisoner of his. She was somebody that he rescued and was bringing there. So they're very apologetic, and they allow him to stay there. And he ends up staying there for a year because he wants Latifa to kind of meet the other girls there, get some friends, and then he can leave comfortably. But obviously that's upsetting to her still because it's her big brother. She doesn't want him to leave. But during this whole entire exchange, he ends up having a meeting with the elders of the village, and that's where they come to find out through this Lady Dryas that shows up. She pretty much points out the fact that he has a spirit within him, a human-shaped spirit. And what they're pretty much pointing out here is that, yes, it seems like everybody that's there, at least the one that we see from Alma, Orphea, and Sarah, is that each one of them have a spirit within them that they're able to manifest, and they use in combat, specifically with this particular situation with this wyvern. So it's not beyond them that they have spirits within them. The interesting thing that is with Rio, and that she notes, is that he has a human-shaped spirit within him, which is very rare. This is typically spirits that are known to be of either the second to higher of the most powerful of spirits. And obviously, where I'm getting a conclusion from this, my initial thought was that the spirit that she sees inside of him is Haruto. But then when I thought about it, the scenes before this is we see that this other spirit is with him, this spirit that he ends up quickly shifting to seeing Miharu, which was this girl from his childhood. And so my assumption at this point is that because this spirit keeps showing up, that's unnamed at this point, because the spirit keeps showing up, and then the last time she showed up, she disappeared, and then we seen Miharu, is that the spirit that is within him is going to be the reincarnation of Miharu, and Miharu has reincarnated into this world as one of these great, I think they said there was 4 divine spirits that disappeared, 6 great spirits that disappeared during the divine demon war over 1,000 years ago. I think this Miharu is going to be reincarnation of one of these great 6 spirits, and that's what she's seeing inside of him. I don't think it's Haruto. And the reason why I don't think that it's Haruto is because I don't see Haruto being a great spirit. And Haruto is now Rio. And this is one thing that I was a little bit upset about how they did this, is I've mentioned before, when the series first started out, and he first was reincarnated into this world, he went into the body of this Rio guy. And what they established right off the bat was that he was retaining himself, his self-identity was remaining Rio. He's like, okay, this Haruto's in my mind, I'm Rio, though. And he was dead set focused on continuing his life as Rio. And Haruto was almost like an afterthought. Like, I have his memories, and I keep tapping into them, but I'm Rio. And it wasn't until the conversation with Latifa where she comes to him and says, I am a reincarnate. I used to be in this place called Japan, and I died and I became myself. So I used to be human. So Latifa herself is not confirming that this girl from Japan came inside of me. Latifa is saying straight out, I was this girl and now I'm this girl. And when Rio responds to this, he says, oh, I am too. I used to be Haruto. So at this point, it shifts. It now shifts to where he now identifies himself as Haruto, which I don't know at what point that shifted. Like I said, it sounded like early on he was identifying himself as Rio. It doesn't matter. It's not a big deal, but it was presenting an interesting concept. I've mentioned several times, I love how these reincarnates isekai shows do things differently. A Sentence of a Bookworm, she herself went into the body of this girl named Mine, and she overtook the body. So she didn't identify herself as Mine, she just became Mine. Whereas this one was kind of doing the opposite, and I kind of like that idea. It's almost as if in A Sentence of a Bookworm, she went into the body of Mine, but she was still herself. She was still Mine. She's had memories of somebody else. Like I said, not a big deal, but at the same time, was a little bit of a letdown to me because I just felt like this was a interesting take on the isekai, where you're isekai'd, but you're not you. Somebody else is still in control. So with that said, my reasoning for thinking that this spirit inside of him is probably Miharu, and she is one of these great spirits, is because it's no longer establishing him as this is a separate identity inside of me. He is now acknowledging that he is one. He is Haruto. So it kind of pushes away the concept of a Haruto being inside of him. He's accepted that and he's become that. So yeah, they get attacked by a wyvern. Obviously, this evil bad guy race is essentially trying to steal a whole bunch of dragons. So I'm assuming that here eventually we're going to have a swarm of dragons being controlled by this race guy and the organization that he's with. The brigade, the Lion Brigade or something like that. This is one of those odd things because they literally show them stealing the eggs. And then the next episode opens up, it's like a year later, and then they're still stealing the eggs. It's like, did it take them a year to steal these eggs? You got to place those scenes awkwardly. But yeah, he gets deemed to be a part of this village, so that was cute. Just as he's leaving, he ends up being given a sword from the made of mithril. He gets a jacket that looks literally like Kirito's jacket. And a bracelet that allows him to open this space-time cache where he can put all this stuff in. So now he's got a bunch of OP gear that he can walk around in and be super convenient with. And that's when he ends up finally arriving at the Yagumo region, which was this was an interesting little segment because he goes there. Everybody else has black hair there. He ends up meeting an old lady. This old lady ends up being his grandmother, which was interesting. Apparently, him explained the fact that his parents are Zen and Ayame just kind of hits a mark for her. She's like, yeah, that's Zen was my son, and so you're my grandson. By the way, this girl that's obviously doking over you is your cousin, so now we have a cousin harem member. We get this little kind of whole thing where he stays there for a while, ends up making a hot spring. These bunch of doofuses show up who try to force themselves on Rui and Sayu, and he has a relapse back to, I think it was the memory of his mother dying, this vampire-looking dude killing his mother. He snaps and just beats the living crap out of the guy, and thankfully there was these tax guys there, so they were able to properly criminalize him and throw him away. So interesting few episodes, though. Like I said, even though it does seem like it just keeps jumping forward, it's establishing the world itself and creating some interesting placement of certain characters. I'm curious at this point what the end game is going to be at this point, because it's not really he's figured out what he needs to figure out. His whole goal from the beginning of this show was to go to his homeland and learn more about his family. He's done that. So it's going to be really telling what's going to happen in the next episode. Obviously, the big, diabolical people behind the scenes getting dragons, but I'm curious at this point, what is going to be his goal going forward? He's established his goal. So what's his new goal? Where is he going to go from here? Is it dragons are attacking his original town, now he has to rush back there? The ED shows Celia, and she's trapped somehow, so maybe Celia becomes a captive and he has to go rescue her. I am curious at this point what the direction is going to be going forward, just because, like I said, he's beat the game. It's the cast is scrolled. Where to now? But yeah, that's my thoughts on episode 5 through 7. Lots of cute girls, lots of time jumps, lots of interesting layouts, and I'm curious to see where it goes from here, but that's my thoughts. Hope you guys enjoyed my impressions. If you did, leave a like down below, comment, let me know what you thought of the episode, subscribe if you haven't already, share this video if you can, support us on Patreon if you can, and y'all take care.